inventory numbers of just over 8,800 that was put out by the Real Estate Association, and the sales are approximately 1,600. What does that mean to a home seller and the odds of them selling their home in today's market? Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Edmonton Real Estate Today. I'm your host, LeRoy Warden, and today I have with me two very special guests, Sheryl Stevens of Remax Real Estate and Brent Anderson of Maxwell Challenge Realty. Sheryl and Brent, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning, good to see you guys. So we had the Real Estate Association Edmonton release their stats, and we wanted to get into what that really means. And I know there's been exciting news about new listings. So they said that there's 3,043 new listings, which represented just over a 1% increase compared to last month. So Sheryl, in your opinion, what does that mean to the home buyer that is in the market out there looking for properties right now?
Well, obviously they've got more inventory options,
Yes.
but I think it also means that they need to be in close contact with their realtor, get out there and see some of the new product right away, because the stuff that's going to come on when the sellers are motivated, they're going to have the house in great shape, they're going to have it priced really well, and those are the ones that are going to go first.
Okay.
So if they want sort of first dibs at things, they need to get on.
And so Brent,
Yeah.
from the home seller's perspective, 3,000 plus listings coming on, trying to get my home sold, what would that mean to a home seller being on the market with those new listings coming to the market?
Definitely takes into account that you have to be prepared, and this is, I think, pretty typical of our market, where we see an influx in listings heading into the fall market,
Yes.
just before the white stuff arrives. So there's people who want to make that move before the seasons change. So
Yes.
we typically see some more product come into the market after the summer holidays are over.
Yes.
So with that, people are going to have to be prepared to make sure their house is in tip-top shape, show ready, to achieve their ultimate goal with the amount of inventory that's in the market.
Residential inventory in August was 8,818. It showed the sales for that month at 1,571. In terms of months of inventory, what does that mean to me as a home buyer or home seller on the market?
If you're selling your house, you have about 6 months worth of inventory,
Yes.
based on the number of sales that are happening.
Mhm.
So that's just on the higher side of a balanced market for
Yes.
Edmonton. So you want to, again, make sure that your house is positioned properly, so you're not following the trend on pricing, and you're also showing well. Those first 3-4 weeks on the market for everybody are always the most important, because
Yep.
that's when you are the hot new listing, and you're going to get those buyers that are out there who know what else is available for their bag of money.
Yes.
So you want to appeal to those people at that prime time.
Okay. And Sheryl, in terms of the home buyers?
Well, I think my stand on the home buyers is, again, them being in close contact with the realtor, knowing if those houses are actually at market value. Because I think what's happening is we had less homes sell in August, but I know there was lots of offers being made, but sometimes those buyers still thought that they were in a buyer's market. So they'd come in really low, even though the house had only been on the market a few days, and then they couldn't bridge the gap of what would make the seller happy and what would make them happy. So again, we had less sales in the month of August than other months, partly because people are on holidays and stuff, but I also think there was a lot of unrealistic expectations. And if they look at those comparables with their realtor, they'll be able to go in and get a fair market price,
Yes.
maybe even below market price a little bit, but where they can actually bridge that gap and get that home they want without people getting their back up.
Right. With the inventory numbers of just over 8,800 that was put out by the Real Estate Association, and the sales are approximately 1,600, what does that mean to a home seller and the odds of them selling their home in today's market?
So odds of selling on those numbers for the whole board, essentially, because it will differ basically on community, gives you about 18% as your odds of selling.
Okay.
So to a seller, that is a very important number, because that means 1 in 5 of the properties that are listed are going to sell,
Okay.
right? So how do you take your odds of selling at 18% and position yourself to be the 1 versus the 4,
Right.
right? Because there are 4 houses that are going to help that one person sell that month. So you need to really align yourself with your agent and take a look at your competition to say, how do we stack up and what do we need to do to make sure we are the 1,
Right.
right? So it's a tough market in that situation where it's, 20%, 1 in 5. So you have to really just be prepared to do what it takes to get those sold stickers.
Well, some of the other statistics reported by the Real Estate Association of Edmonton was the average price of a single family home is $434,000, just a little bit above the average price of a condo being $234,000, and also the average price of a duplex now being $354,000. Now, the time it's taking for them to sell is 57 days for single family homes, condos 74 days, and for duplexes 61 days on average for them to sell. Do you have any comments in terms of those stats and what it might mean to a home buyer and seller?
Well, we kind of looked back to see how do we compare from this year to last year, right, in the same time frame of August. And Sheryl and I found out that 2 of those numbers are better than last year and 1 of them is not.
Okay.
And I think we all know which one's not better because the condo market is pretty saturated. So for buyers and sellers in the condo market, buyers definitely have a lot more options to choose from and the potential to get a pretty good deal, right? Because there is so much available and that price point has come down year over year. And then the single family and duplex, I'll let Sheryl kind of talk about.
Yeah, so single family, it's interesting when we look at the numbers. I think we're up over 2%, 2.2%. And so the interesting thing is, I know everyone's been complaining about the economy in this last year, but obviously those numbers show that we did better, we're doing better this year compared to last year. So I think, again, that's a positive sign. But again, it just comes down to making sure that, people aren't sort of taking advantage of certain numbers. It all comes down to that prep work. It all comes down to making sure that those first 3 weeks are really the most important weeks that those houses are on the market. So we're not, listing a home and then, a week later the seller's going, no, I'm going to paint it now, and therefore pull it back off for a while, because it just takes away from all those people that could be seeing it in the first 3 weeks. But I think it's also important when things like the duplexes are up, and I know we were discussing how duplexes are up, and I think there's some really good merit about getting a duplex because maybe you can afford that compared to your single family home. But we don't always think about some of the pros and cons with it.
Well, there is a lot here for people to absorb, and I'm glad that we've taken the time to talk about these numbers and what it means to home buyers and sellers. Do either of you have any final comments you want to make for the audience out there?
I think it's important that they get out there now. Again, September is going to be a busy month, right? Back to school and everything, but there's so many people that want to get that house sold or get that house bought before the winter hits.
Yes.
So definitely get in touch with their realtor, give us a call, and we'd be more than happy to help them out.
Absolutely. And Brent, any final comments?
Edmonton's a good place to buy real estate, right? It's not crazy like Vancouver, Toronto, but it's also a balanced market as we've set out today. It's not something where there's a ton of inventory out there, and really for the buyers and the sellers, the cream puffs will go, right?
Yes.
So if your house is prepped and ready, it will go. And as a buyer, if you find a cream puff, somebody else is also going to think it's a cream puff. So don't wait too long because you could lose it. And you will see that the properties that do show well and have the right value attached to them will move rather quickly in our market. And we still see multiple offers, right? Even in today's market, it's not common, but it still happens. So make sure you're aligned and educated in what's happening within the market that you're in. I think is the biggest thing for people on both sides, buyers and sellers.
All right. So guys, I want to thank you again for your time today and for bringing us this update and for joining us and letting everyone know what's happening in today's market. All right, Sheryl?
Thanks.
And Brent?
Thanks, LeRoy.
All right, my guys. That is a wrap, my friends.